There we go. Okay, let's pop out the old chat, move it to the other window, drag it down a bit, change it to live chat instead of top chat. I don't even know why we have that. Must be for famous people. Okay, and boom, there we go. Hope you folks are doing well. It is a Sunday morning here where I am. It might be a Sunday, but it might be a Monday where you are. It is currently -2 degrees Fahrenheit, which is -19 Celsius. The funny thing is that's warm for what it's been the last several days. It might get up to, according to this, it's supposed to get up to 7 Fahrenheit today, which would put us in positive numbers, which we haven't been in for a bit. So that being said, we haven't had any snow, so other parts of the country that are not used to snow have been hit with a lot of snow, and so luckily we haven't had snow, but we've definitely been really, really, really cold. Mr. Square Peg, see you all in 8 hours. You're going to see all of us in 8 hours? Oh, my goodness. Good morning from Union County, Georgia. Working on finishing a small Inquisitor crew. Is just past the ugly stage. It's always good to get past the ugly stage. Fungazi, how you doing? Good morning from the snow-blasted ruins of Washington, D.C. Perfect day to stay inside and play Wing Commander. I can understand that. I went out to check the mail yesterday. That was about it. Yeah. Howdy from Jonesboro, Illinois in the new tundra. Morning from Quebec. Dragonfire, how you doing? Good morning. Working on those odds and ends. Let's see here. Stephen Bach, a cold good morning to you from Lake in the Hills, Illinois. Gotcha. Good time of day. Great to catch the stream live. Good to have you there. Kirill Red, 30K. Good morning from a still snowing New Jersey. I'll be digging out in a couple of hours. Well, I hope that it goes well and you don't have any problems. Morning from the Philly Burbs. Another couple of hours of snow and then 8 to 10 hours of glazed donut world. Ugh, that sounds like no fun. I mean, I like glazed donuts, but I have a suspicion you're talking about ice. And then, yeah, that's no fun. Baking cookies for the people digging out the sidewalks. Well, that's very nice. Good morning from a snow-filled Yukon, Oklahoma. How you doing, Rodney? Still forgets you can't have a flamethrower, so you've been shoveling out the driveway. Well, yeah. Good afternoon from Kent, England. How you doing, Double Dip? Morning from Central Florida. Good time of day. I'm just doing some work on my flight sim before heading out to the hobby shed to do some painting. Nice. Good morning from South Central North Carolina. Looks like someone spilled a giant bottle of gloss coat out there. That's never good. Morning from Quebec City. It's a chilly -25 here, so staying under the blanket. So it's even a little colder than it is here. Morning from Cleveland. Howdy from a not very snowy French Alps, working on some bases for Moonstone. All my thoughts for people stuck in extreme cold and snowy weathers, indeed. Hello from Richmond, Virginia. My next project is an Italian village, shallow slant rooftops. Hardest part is planning form versus function, footprints, number, height, playable rooftops, overhangs, etc. Yeah, there's a video game out right now called Arc Raiders, which is very cool. But it mostly takes place in Italy. And there are definitely there's a couple of maps that the buildings are all mostly sci-fi, but then there's also a couple of maps that are like, oh, this is definitely Italian, architecture stuff and things like that. And it is very interesting to see, the differences between the different maps and things. And yeah, the Italian kind of villa sort of look is, the roofs are a lot less slanted, so it's a lot easier for you to run around on the roof. But in video game or in tabletop games, you got to think about that stuff too as well, because if it's a very slanted roof, your model's not going to stay there; it's going to slide off and fall on the ground. Good morning from a snowy Ontario. Stay warm, stay safe. Indeed. Will the Ontario snow ever stop? I mean, I hope it does eventually. Yeah. VJ Morph, how you doing? Hello from Seattle. No snow, but chilly. Indeed. New mic sounds good. Very rich. Oh, well, thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, I did get a new mic. I got a Shure M7 something plus. I don't know. It's got it's a USB mic, but it also has the ability to do XLR. And I'm not going to set up XLR up here because it's a pain a little bit. But yeah, so far it does work. It's the same one that Vince uses. So I kind of thought, well, then hopefully we'll match a little bit better when we do the podcast. We'll see. Actually, I'm editing the podcast this afternoon. So, and when we recorded, I had the new mic, I'm pretty sure. So we will see. I will have to go in probably and change a bunch of settings in the editing software. But spent the morning building. At first glance, I thought it said laminators, but it said terminators. And now you're in the gym. Gotcha. I don't know what a 40K laminator is, but it's probably got skulls on it. Columbus is having a fumble winter. I don't know what that means. Let's see. Good morning from Northern Illinois. Holy moly, that's cold. Howdy from soon-to-be Hoth Rebel Base, Boston, finishing up some half-finished projects as part of my New Year's resolution. Nice. Half-finished projects are always good to go on. You know what I mean? Where were we? Afternoon from Bridgend or Brigand. I'm not sure. In South Wales. But to paint my Fireflies and linebacker for Conflict 47. Nice. I didn't have great luck building those Fireflies. Kind of stalled on that one, talking about stalling. Checking in from snow and sleet covered to North Carolina. Given the topic of the day, do you prefer kits, 3D prints, or scratch-built buildings? I like them all myself. These days, I'm really into 3D printing stuff. So I have been 3D printing a lot. This is a little newsstand, a little cyberpunk newsstand. This is from Corvus Games Terrain. I think you can just go to corvusgamesterrain.com probably. But it's just really convenient and nice to be able to do stuff like this and just print things out like this. Or, strangely enough, things like this. This is just a cool, crazy, weird basalt, curvy rock formation thing. There's like 3 or 4 different kind of versions of this in the kit that I bought, the STL set that I bought. And the nice thing about this is that like it'll work just fine with a 28 millimeter scale guy, right? It looks to scale and everything's fine, but you could also put a 6 millimeter mech over here and it would also be to scale. Rock formations are awesome because they don't usually have to be crazy to scale, and you can use them in a lot of different situations. This is mostly just for obviously 28 millimeter, 32 millimeter type stuff. The thing that I'm trying to get into is I am now trying to teach myself how to model this kind of thing myself. And I'm trying to start small and grow slowly as I do. So that's also one of the things that I've been like trying to figure out, like I can make little sci-fi vents and things like that to some degree, but like what's another building? Like so yeah, I'm trying to figure out whether I'm putting the cart before the horse or not, I guess. That's part of the trick. Like should I come up with what I want the board to look like, or should I come up with what I want the buildings to look like and then try to fit them all together into a single board? I don't know. So that's part of my thought process and my issue. But I do really like just being able to print out the thing after I've designed it. If I want to come up with something, then like scratch building is awesome too. But if I can design it myself in the computer and then just print it, and then that's really the plan. Let's see here. Where was I? Good evening. Hoping you're doing well. Just speed painted a whole blackout squad start to finish, rolling through them. So much fun. Nice. Video is perfect timing. Wanted to build a Trench Crusade board soon. So I've printed 3 pieces of terrain for Trench Crusade recently, like a big, cross with antennas all over it, and then 2 pillboxes. And I have some other terrain that I'm probably going to print that's not specifically made for Trench Crusade, but it will definitely work because it's kind of World War I-y looking ruins and stuff. I haven't done any trenches yet, per se, for Trench Crusade. In the games that Sam and I have played, we've talked about it, and we're like, I don't know if trenches are a necessity for sure. I mean, a lot of people obviously are playing Trench Crusade or playing with trenches, but in the rules, there's not really like, oh, but if you're in a trench, you're golden. It's just kind of more types of terrain. And so, yeah, I haven't gone down that road, but I do have, when I backed the Kickstarter, I got the STLs for, you can print out like the walls of the trenches if you want to, and then you just put like insulation foam or whatever next to it that's the right height, and then boom, you got yourself a trench. But I haven't printed any of those yet. Morning and happy Australia Day from a wet Townsville. Well, cool. Happy Australia Day to you too. Morning from a frigid Saskatchewan. Lord Adam. Oh my goodness. Currently negative 34 and 43 with the wind chill. That's no fun. Should be getting relatively warmer this week. I hope so. Yeah, we're going to get a bit warmer this week too, but we'll still be in highs of like single digits. But then after that, it'll get back up into the 20s again, which will be lovely. I'll walk outside in shorts. No, I won't. Sleet and ice covered bonjour from North Carolina. How you doing? Happy to have power? Absolutely. Good morning from the only warm place left in the U.S., Florida. I mean, it kind of seems like it. Good Sunday morning from Sarnia, Ontario, and our ongoing flurries. Snow-covered Texas. I hope that you folks are doing okay down there. I know that's not a normal thing. Morning from chilly Southwest Virginia. We fortunately didn't get severely impacted by snowfall. Hope you are well, indeed. Middle Tennessee, we have ice, snow, treacherous roads, and snapping trees. The land of sweet tea wasn't built for this. No, it generally wasn't. Hunkered down in Syracuse, New York, waiting for the football games and the 18 inches of snow that we're expecting later. Boo, that's no fun. Cheers from Poland. How you doing? Let's see. Whoops. Didn't mean to click on that. Stop doing that, please. Thank you. Come on. Afternoon from a damp Puckle Church. Working on some silver bayonet miniatures today. Nice. Freezing and under snow in Maryland. Under a ton of snow. Cleaning up my first box of Alpha Strike minis. Should have picked this game up long ago. Nice. Getting 8 inches of snow today in Delaware. Indeed. Good morning from cold, snowy Hudson, Illinois. Good morning from icy Alexandria. Just finished breakfast. Now it's time to finish my Space Wolves Combat Patrol. Nice. What's up from St. Louis, Missouri? Morning from Laredo, Texas. We're warmer here than everywhere, I think. Well, that's good. Going to try and finish painting some old metal Deathwing Terminators today for some Badab War Star Phantoms. Ooh. Morning from snow-beset Levittown, Pennsylvania. Jebbies, how you doing? Clearwater, Florida. You probably don't have much snow. Snowy and icy Sweden. That's right there in the name. Good morning from Orlando. Supposed to be a high of 86 degrees here today. Ugh, that's too many degrees. There's too few degrees and too many degrees, and, you know, there you go. Icy Sweden. There we go. Sure marks are great gear. Yeah, I didn't want to get the fancy schmancy one that everybody has, the SM7B or whatever, but that's like, because then you definitely, that's not a USB mic. It needs like XLR, and then you need to have usually some sort of cloud lifter, and then you need to have the USB interface, and that's just a lot more crap that I want to put on my desk. So just went with this one here, whatever this one's called. Morning from a warmer than yesterday Milwaukee. Yeah, it's a bit warmer here today than it was yesterday up here too. As an AV tech of 30 years, sure is always quality brand. Absolutely. Arma devs were arrested for espionage because they took too many photos of military installations in Greece. Well, that's a bummer. Gaming is always, not always, gaming has had problems like that before. Way back in the day in the realm of board gaming, what's his name? Steve Jackson Games, they got busted by the FBI because they were making an expansion about hacking or something for GURPS or whatever or something. And so the FBI came in and like took all their computers, and it was a whole thing. This is like in the 90s. Wanted to print some more this weekend, but it started to rain again. Snowmageddon-stricken St. Louis. How you doing? Dull, cold Isle of Wight. Morning from Georgia. If I get myself together, I'll work on some terrain stone walls using bark nuggets. Maybe build some Warhammer Old World stuff I've had in boxes for over a year. That's the thing, is I don't see myself doing any design stuff for fantasy stuff, because that's a lot more stones and cobblestones, and I don't know how to do that stuff yet. Like I can build shapes to some degree, and I'm working to get better at that. But then there are like textures. I talked about this in the texture video a couple of weeks ago. Like this thing doesn't really have much in the way of textures. It's got like indentations and bumps and vents and things like that, but it's not like there's no cracks in it or stuff like that. Whereas the same manufacturer, Corvus Games Design, like they made a bunch of that Trench Crusade stuff where there's definite like cracks and bumps and things like that. And so I reached out to him over at Corvus, and I was like, hey, I don't know even the questions to ask on how to even do that. So how do you have, like, can you push me in the right direction? And he was very lovely and sent me back an email and was like, well, you have to kind of start here and then do this. And so now I've got at least a framework and some keywords that I can like learn from, but it is basically taking the shapes, like the simpler the shape, if you made just a shed that was just a square and a square and a square, maybe a hole in it, and a roof, to make that square on one side have like a crack in it, you have to turn that square into basically tons of little squares. You have to like kind of segment the big rectangle into like tons and tons and tons of little rectangles, and then you can go in and modify them with a sculpting tool in the software, let's say something like Blender, but it can't do that when it's just one big square. Like it's a square, it can't do anything to it. But when it's tons and tons of little squares, it's almost like adding more resolution to something, which of course makes the file larger and everything like that. But so that at least helped me to go, oh, okay, that's, and so now I can do a little bit more Google searchy stuff and things like that to kind of learn how to go down that road. But it was very nice of him to kind of give me some pointers, as it were. So I appreciate that. Let's see here. Isle of Wight. Star Wars Legion should support this weather. Hoth Base inspiration. I mean, yeah. Morning from nice and mild Arizona. Well, that's fun. Like Arizona, like it, you can like do all kinds of nice stuff outside when it's like winter. But I think in the summer, you guys are sort of sticking indoors because it's so friggin' hot. At least I would think so. First live show since the new year. Glad to have you, Blade Runner. Good morning from snowy New England, working on some Space Marines this morning. Nice. Laminators board Space Hulks in search of valuable documents to preserve for Imperial records. I mean, it could be, yeah. It's like laminators and the lamenters. It's kind of the same things. Aren't the laminators those guys, yellow guys with the heart logo? Maybe. Good morning from Northern Indiana. Been painting minis from Gotham City Chronicles. Love the primer science. Well, I appreciate that. I don't know if I'm familiar with Gotham City Chronicles. That's interesting. Shout out to Stormcrow City for fantasy urban terrain. I'm not familiar with them. He said basalt, and I heard bath salt. I mean, printed terrain or built terrain. Generally, I'm, like I said, these days I've been much more liking printed terrain. But it's because I want to eventually start building my own printed terrain. I want to start designing my own things. So I've done a little bit, and this week I'm going to take some more. I've got some online classes. I've got a membership through Skillshare, hashtag not sponsored, but so I've been watching some different video thingies through there. Some of them are useful, some of them are not. Like the thing about Blender is that they update it quite frequently. So sometimes you're like, oh, okay, I'll watch this video about Blender, and you're like, oh, it's from a year ago. Well, it's things have updated since then, so it's sometimes a problem. But what are you going to do? Excuse me. Been printing a lot of terrain lately. 10mm World War II. Interesting. Morning from foggy California. Hosted a game of Song and Blades and Heroes yesterday. Introduced the game to the father of a guy in my group who hadn't gamed for many years. Had a marvelous time. It was great to be part of. Song of Blades and Heroes is a really good game to teach. It's really good for teaching. I used to teach it quite a bit at small conventions and stuff like that. Learning to use Blender. I'm something of an architect myself. I mean, not really, but I am trying to learn how to use Blender. On the subject of scenery, I've got a toilet flushing system that I think will make an awesome starship wreckage piece for Stargrave. Ah, okay. I wasn't sure where you were going there, but yeah. Yeah, for sure. I can see that. Those like towers that go inside the toilet, you use that as like a cool thing, yeah. I've done it all and have settled on 3D printing mostly. However, having skills with crafting and learning to work with materials such as XPS is hugely valuable for kit bashing and modifying terrain. True. Also, sometimes it's good also to just be able to modify your 3D printed stuff. Like, you know, this is a very clean, and it's got stuff going on. You know, there's a door on this side, an air conditioning thing, and it's got a little, and then over here is, I guess, a vending machine, and here's, you know, so there's a lot of things going on. But if I had some greeblies from other stuff, other kits, let's say, I could glue other parts to things to kind of help to make it stand out a little bit different and do that kind of stuff. I could, like, this thing's got its own integrated little sign. I don't know if you guys can see that there. It says Edo City, and then there's some kanji, I think. You could build your own sign and glue it over the top if you wanted it to say something different. You know what I mean? And so there's little accoutrement that you can add to things like that, which is also a nice skill to have. Non-gaming friend bought a PLA printer for other purposes, and I now might be sliding down a slippery slope that I have been avoiding. I got to say, filament print is, especially depending on who you buy it from, I think filament printing is a lot easier than people think now. I have a Bamboo Lab A1, and it works spectacularly. It almost never gives me trouble. It's very simple to use, and yeah, I don't know. I've said this a bunch of times before, but from the time that I cut the tape on the box to open it to the time that I printed my first little benchmark boat, the SS Benchy, as they call it, it was less than an hour. It was like 57 minutes till this was finished, not just started. Last weekend when I was in Peoria, Illinois, I was at Hank's house. Hank is one of the guys that there's Hank and Matt, who are the main folks that kind of run Adepticon, and Hank hosts these things called Adepticon Spray Team meetings. I'm going to be making a video about it, not next week, but probably the week after. And they make all the terrain for Adepticon. Like 90% of all the tournament terrain you see at Adepticon is made by Adepticon. You know, GW doesn't bring their own stuff. War Machine doesn't bring their own stuff. Everything, it's made by the Adepticon folks. And it's mostly all 3D printed, and all the 3D printers are Bamboo. And he was telling me they used to have like Creality and this and that, and they just, it's all Bamboo now because it just works. So, yeah. Fun fact, he said in 2025, they made 3,000 pieces of terrain, which is a lot. And he said they're on track to make more this year. So, yeah. Let's see here. I saw a great castle built out of a big coffee can, but I've also built a great communications tower out of one of the mini cans of Pringles. The Pringles cans get used for terrain a lot, for sure. Morning from Virginia. Going to finish building some Death Ray Designs Battletech terrain here. Nice. Want to learn to model Australian buildings? There ain't a lot of Queenslanders available in game scales. Interesting. I realize I enjoy painting terrain more than crafting terrain. That's one of the benefits of 3D printing, is that you just, you print it and then you go, okay, now I can paint. So, you know, you don't have to like make this or make the, you know, that's just, yeah. I went to FDM for terrain a couple of years ago, and I haven't gone back with only a handful of exceptions. Resin terrain, like if it's really small pieces or things like that, I could see there being a benefit to that. But honestly, yeah, if you're making terrain and you want to 3D print it, FDM is the way to go. Making scratch-built terrain is one of my favorite aspects of the wider hobby. 3D printed bits like doors and windows are an excellent addition to them. Sure, absolutely. There's a lot of folks out there that just make like little doohickeys, little, again, accoutrement, you know, that you can 3D print and then glue to the scratch-built stuff that you've, you know, built to make it look a little bit more real or interesting or whatever. And I think that's a very cool thing too. Luckily, using my Mordheim terrain for Trench Crusade. Interesting. I can see that. Yeah. Usually 3D printed terrain is much cheaper, especially so if you have your own printer. Oh yeah, for sure. Like a kilo of filament, which is it's the normal size that a spindle of filament comes on. It's a kilo of filament. I think if I buy mine in bulk. If I just buy a single roll, I think it's like $20 of the stuff that I get, maybe a little bit more. But you pretty much never buy a single roll because then you'd also have to pay shipping too, which is kind of silly. So they did have a sale recently where if you bought 10 or more rolls, it was down to like $12.99 per kilo. And so I bought 10 kilos of gray basic PLA or PLA basic, whatever. I bought my stuff from Bamboo. I just order directly from them from their website. But there's a lot of stuff you can get on Amazon. There's a lot of things out there. I have 2 other spindles that are not Bamboo that I haven't tried yet. One is from a company called Sunlu, which Fat Dragon Games suggested for trying to get the best out of your printer and be able to print miniatures. I haven't tried that yet. And then actually Hank was nice enough to give me a kilo of a Pro PLA from Polymaker, I think is the name of the company. So I haven't tried that yet either, but just get a normal house STL and throw it on stilts. There you go. There we go. Let's see here. Did you see that Trinity Battleground is up on Wargames Vault in digital form with STLs for the miniatures? It's cool seeing an obscure game with a great premise back from the void. Trinity Battleground, was that a game that was originally called Aeon? Like Trinity, there was a game called Aeon made by, was it White Wolf? And then they had to change the name because there was that TV show called Aeon Flux. And then they changed it to Trinity. It was an RPG, and then there was Trinity Battlegrounds. Let me know if that's what I'm thinking about. But that's interesting. It's on Wargames Vault. I'll have to check it out. Old Schools to the Train is DIY with foam core, Pringle can, water bottle, and soda can. And there's nothing wrong with that. For me, I like I said, for me, to some degree, I kind of want to just go straight to the painting process. I'm less and less interested in building these days. Even building miniatures, I'm a little bit less, like if I can just 3D print some miniatures, it makes me happier. You know, I don't have a resin print. Well, I do have a resin printer. I don't have a resin printer I've ever used. So I work with my friend Dave on that over at bottleandspool.com. And he prints stuff for me, which is lovely. And then I pay him. But my point is that like especially when they're already built, like sometimes you get 3D models. I just did the models that I'm painting right now on Twitch are 3D printed models from Anvil Industry. And Dave printed them for me. But I did have to put them together. But they're super modular. It's like glue head onto torso, glue torso onto legs, glue arms onto torso. Like it's not like a lot of GW stuff where you have to like read the instructions to figure out what's going on. There's no instructions. It's like head goes in the neck hole, that kind of thing. It's very simple. And so I'll do that. That's fine. But like really like crazy, this is going to take 28 parts to make this one dude. I'm kind of sort of tired of that. And for terrain, like I said, if it's something that I can either like just build, I'm also starting to learn a little bit about how to modify other people's STLs. So like, I'm currently downstairs. It's not printing right now. As soon as I get done here, I'm going to start printing the next piece, but I'm printing from this same set, this kind of, he calls it Edo City, and it's like a cyberpunk set. There's like some sort of building. I think it's I don't know, it's electronics. It's like a tech fix-it shop or something like that. And it's 2 stories and it also has a roof. And it has a bunch of signs on it, which again, have that 3-dimensional stick-out kind of lettering. And I don't want it to have the 3-dimensional lettering, so I'm going to take the sign part in, I don't even think I have to use it in Blender. I think I'm just going to do it straight in the Bamboo Studio app, which is what you print out of. I can just like subtract some of these parts. So it'll show the sign that has like the sticky outy letters, and I can just be like, just cut off that part, and then it'll just be a flat sign, and then I can put my own sign on there with like paper and glue it down or whatever, stuff like that. So that's the plan. It's kind of like kit bashing, digital kit bashing, sort of, which I'm fine with. Corvus has a Taco Bell inspired building. Why do I want this? Now I want a Whataburger. Well, there you go. Speaking of, hello from Atlanta, Georgia, while I make more wartime terrain on this icy day. Nice. Good morning from... That's weird. Good morning from... where did it say there? North Carolina, taking the dog out, then some time to prime some quar. Nice. What is the cool basalt rock formation STLs? I don't 100% remember. Let me see if I can log into my mini factory. Oh, of course it's not logged in. Let me see here. It's not a name I like remember or recognize. You know what I mean? I never remember my password for my mini factory. Okay. So, but it's a recent purchase, so I'll be able to find it in my library pretty quickly. In theory. Okay. Get $10 credit. No, thank you. Library. It's called, it's the, okay. Let me do this. There. So it's a company called TXARLI. Is that Zarly or Tazarli? I don't know. Tazarli Factory. It's over here. And it's called Rocky Planet is the name of the file. And it comes with a bunch of different shapey shapes like this. I've only printed one so far. But yeah, it's a Tazarli or whatever factory. I initially came across them because they make these cool city debris ones too, which I don't have any of these up here, but I have printed a whole bunch of these and they're downstairs in the basement. And those are neat too. So, but yeah. So that's what I would tell you to go look for. TXARLI Factory. Excuse me. FDM terrain is great. Resin for minis. My Kickstarter, the vast and verdant is FDM jungle terrain because not everything needs to be burnt out buildings or sandy galaxy far, far away desert motif. True. Good morning from central Wyoming. How you doing, Joshua? For Trench Crusade, I'd suggest printing Zarly Factory World War II trenches right there. See, I just could have waited a little bit more longer and we would have gotten right there. If you want trenches that can lay on top of a normal table, not everyone wants to bring a multi-level board. And it's true. That's the other thing too, is that generally it's like you've got to have then like thicker parts to be able to make the trenches because you can't actually go into the table usually, you know, I don't know. Greetings from Warsaw. First time checking your live stream. Well, thank you for coming. Thanks a ton for your content. I appreciate that. It got me painting minis way more. Still working on playing more often. Nice, nice. Good to hear it. When the winter storm hit northeast Texas, I lost power almost immediately. Thank goodness I have 2 generators and a kerosene heater. I can understand that. Oh yeah, Australia Day, I should make lamingtons. I don't even know what lamingtons are. That's interesting. Supposed to go see Ghost in Charlotte, North Carolina tonight, but they ended up canceling it and 2 other adjacent shows. I'm heartbroken, but it's for the best, I suppose. I mean, weather is, we gotta fix weather. We gotta figure out a way to take control of weather. That's what we got to do. Thanks for always being a bright spot in the dark time in the U.S. Welcome to Distraction. Well, I appreciate that, Nick. Welcome from Fitchburg, Wisconsin. Finishing up some zombies I primed more than a year ago. Nice. It's always nice when you've got stuff sitting around for a while and then you're just like, you know what? I'm going to actually just do this. And then you do. And then it's great, you know? Checking in from a blizzardy South Ontario, getting Battletech mechs done. Nice. Hello from -6 degrees Celsius, Sweden. How you doing? Good morning from Northern Indiana, playing Trench Crusade and priming minis. Nice. Good morning from Winneconne. How you doing, Carrick? Good morning from a drizzly Nottingham, currently painting up some Mammoth Miniatures William Morris Kickstarter minis. Mammoth Miniatures William Morris. Hoping you and yours are staying warm and safe out there. So far, so good. I mean, the furnace has been running all morning, but that makes sense. I have a shirt from back then that Steve Jackson put out. It says Steve 1 Secret Service 0. That's right. It wasn't the FBI. It was the Secret Service. That's right. Yeah. GURPS Cyberpunk. Yeah, they were working on and researching stuff for GURPS Cyberpunk, and then the Secret Service busted them. Oh, and the FBI too? Is that what it was? Because I think then they made their game Hackers based off of the fact that they got they made it was a card game called Hackers, and they made it because of that whole thing. Steve's a super nice guy. I've met him and talked with him. Was it before or after the pandemic? After. It was after the pandemic. Yeah. It was at the Gamma Trade Show in Louisville. Yeah. Because I played Car Wars back in college. Like we played like every Friday night for like a long time. We played the heck out of Car Wars and everything like that. So we loved Ogre and stuff like that. And so I was always a big fan. And then I got to interview him one time when I was working with Beasts of War. And I don't think he remembers that, which is fine, but I do. And I got to interview him and everything like that. And at the time, because it was when Ogre... Was it when Ogre was out for Kickstarter? I don't remember. But I asked him, I'm like, do you think you'll ever come out with a new version of Car Wars? And he's like, oh man, that'd be great. I don't know. And then eventually they did. So, but I was talking about Car Wars stuff at some point, and I don't remember what video it was in or whatever, but like all of a sudden one night, just out in the middle of nowhere, I got an email from him saying, hey, thanks for talking about my stuff on your channel. I was like, wow. And then, like I said, I got to talk to him at Gamma Trade Show several years back. 2023, 2024, somewhere in there. So yeah. And then the current CEO of Steve Jackson Games is a woman that I know named Meredith, who she and her husband also run TurboDork, the crazy color shifting paint company. It's all interconnected. You know what I mean? And now Steve Jackson Games just is doing a Kickstarter right now for like 2nd edition Munchkin, which I think is interesting. So still have my GURPS books. Yeah, I've got a couple myself. I got hit with Computer Fraud and Abuse Act stuff that wasn't finally applicable once it got to court. Yeah. Snowed under Columbus, Ohio. I didn't realize they got snow in Columbus. I'll have to see how Vince is doing tonight when I talk to him. DC Comics was investigated during World War II because a Superman comic had details about American subs they thought DC shouldn't have. Turns out they got the details from the public library. Oh, Lord. Dry brushing some old metal orc dreadnoughts. Nice. Ogre was my favorite. Love my tiny tanks. Yeah, I've got the newest edition, the big, giant Kickstarter box that weighed like 1,000 pounds or whatever. No, it wasn't 1,000, but it was like 27 pounds. It's really heavy. Does not fit under the bed upstairs. Yeah. Morning from the northern edge of the storm, Detroit. Advice on quick base color. I have rimmed them in black, but for a quick color or two on the top, I'm a little stuck. You mean the actual physical top of the base? Or do you mean, because like, I generally do the base top before I do the rims, but your mileage may vary. I normally go with gray, honestly, on most of my sci-fi models. On nearly every sci-fi model that I make for whatever game, and this guy's not painted, so he doesn't count. But I usually go with a gray surface on the basing, and the reason is because my basing is designed to look kind of urban, and like there's like maybe a little bit of like you were in a parking lot, but that building over there exploded a couple of days ago from a rocket strike, and now there's a bit of rubble. Not too much, but some. Like that's what I'm trying to do with all my bases for sci-fi for the most part. Mechs I usually do desert. My Star Wars Legion guys are desert, but for the most part, everything else is that same gray, no matter what kind of like thing I'm doing. And then the benefit is I can take this guy from this paint job 6 months ago, this guy from this paint job 2 years ago, this guy, put them all together into a group for like a miniature agnostic game, like say something like Space Weirdos, and then they all have the same base, so they don't look weird. Like this guy's on a jungle base and this guy's on a whatever. So that's just the way I do it, but I'm not saying that that's the way you should do it necessarily. But yeah. Let's see here. Good morning from the Florida Panhandle. Is my understanding correct that 6 feet is 28 millimeters when scaled correctly? So generally, from the way it's always been explained to me is that the scale is from. So if you say something is 28 millimeter scale, you are saying that that is 28 millimeters from the bottom of the feet of the model to the eyes, not the top of the head, but to the eyes. That's what I've always heard is the standard for what is a scale, right? But now, like, well, is the guy standing up straight? Is he got his legs spread a little bit and crouched in a combat pose? I mean, it's always a little squirrely. I don't know that scale's super crazy important, like to get to that point where you're talking about millimeters or half millimeters. But in general, when they're talking about scale, they're saying that it is from the eye to the bottom of the feet. Now, the trick is, I'm a foot taller than my wife. Are we the same scale? We are, as it turns out. But still, I mean, that's why the whole scale thing is a little squirrely sometimes. And I don't know that it means 6 feet per se. Steve Jackson Games had a board game called Hacker. It was inspired by that incident. Yep. Steve Jackson Games, Ogre and Illuminati were very present in my childhood. I still have the OG versions in my collection. Yeah, Illuminati was a great card game. It really was. Snow Smacked Chicago. Well, I hope that everything is okay. DC story reminds me of how Tom Clancy did all the research from public documents and got some unwanted attention and then turned into some useful connections. I mean, it's always like, where'd you learn that? And you're like, the library. And they're like, oh, that's, what are you going to do? Going from Pittsburgh, Snow sent me home early from work, and by the looks of it, doubt I'll be going in tonight. Well, I mean, I hope that's okay. Have you heard of Black Magic Craft on YouTube? He has the best terrain vids. Yeah, I know, Jeremy. We met the first time 2-3 years ago at Adepticon. I think, it was 2 or 3. It was when Adepticon was still in Schaumburg. So it wasn't last year. I know it was either 2 or 3 years ago we met for the first time. He's a nice guy. I watched a bunch of the videos he did recently about him fixing up his basement. And evidently he's got a background in doing like contracting and stuff like that. So he was able to like level the floor and do all kinds of electrical work and stuff like that. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty awesome. Let's see here. How did you gain confidence to show people your minis? Mine don't look anything like what I see online. I mean, mine don't either. I don't paint like super crazy well. I'm not what you would call a competition painter. I did enter a competition once and it was fine. I don't particularly want to do it again. Like, not like I'm against the concept. I like spent a month on that one miniature, and the whole time I was like, I could be getting so many other guys done if I wasn't just painting this one miniature for a month. I could get a bunch of stuff done for the tabletop. So I'm a tabletop painter. I'm not a display painter. As far as confidence is concerned, I mean, I don't know. I think it's more important for you to compare yourself to yourself than it is to compare yourself to other people. So I think the benefit in that situation is that you can, especially using social media, you can put up a post about a thing you painted, and then maybe a year later you put up, and you post as much as you want in between those two times, but you might come back a year later to look at another post and then go back and compare to a year ago and go, oh, I've improved. I mean, that's really the most important part. It's not that you're trying to be the number one painter in the world. I mean, unless you are, I guess, but it's more about you want your stuff to be better than it was 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, whatever. And so there's a benefit to that in social media. The other trick is that, especially when you're just starting off, you're not going to have a lot of people like going, oh, wow, your stuff is bad. Or, I mean, you're just not going to have a lot of people in general. You know what I mean? Like, most people don't get a lot of views, especially if you're using Instagram these days, because Instagram is hot, wet garbage, and it's mostly just all reels of AI crap. So, trying to actually see pictures of miniatures amongst all that is kind of hard. but it's not a bad idea to use it kind of almost as a little time capsule for you. So you can come back later and go, oh, yeah, I did better here versus that. I mean, I'm hoping you probably hold on to your models too. And there's a benefit to doing that as well and looking at your old models. You don't even need to have the social media if you don't want to. You just be like, go dig through a box and go, oh, I painted this last year. Well, this is, I've done better now. And that's cool. I have the earliest model that I can find of mine that's on my desk downstairs, and it is an old BattleTech Atlas that I painted silver, like metallic, using Testor's enamels in the square metal, bottles. And then I tried to make a wash out of black and like turpentine or about a thinner or whatever, and then put it over the top. And that's how I painted that model. And it's not great, but I hold on to it so I can take that and compare it to something that I painted now 25 years later and going, oh, good, I've improved. And I think it's important. I like your Sunday glasses, man. I always wanted glasses for different days. It's not so much for different days. It's for sitting at the computer. I have my normal glasses when I'm not sitting at the computer, but when I'm sitting at the computer, I have these. They have blue blocker built in, which is supposed to be better for your eyes when you're looking at monitors a lot. And also, like, my lenses are all progressive lenses, so they're like no line bifocals. But these are great for like walking around and looking at things like outside or whatever. But these are designed to be focused. Like if I look outside, I can see stuff, but it's not as sharp as if I'm wearing my regular glasses. But I don't have to do this to see stuff on the computer. These are designed for short distance focus, and these are designed for normal distance, driving around or whatever, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, these glasses I just leave here on my desk, and then, when I sit down, I take off my regular glasses and put these on so I can work and things like that. But every once in a while, I get up and I walk around and I'm like, why can't I see? Oh, I'm wearing the wrong glasses. So that happens. When you work from home and it's just you and the cats during the day, you walk around and be like, why can't I see any of you jerks? And then I'm like, oh, I'm wearing the wrong glasses. So, yeah. But I got glasses from this cheap online company. All my glasses are for years and years and years have been this company called Zenni, Zenni. Again, hashtag not sponsored. And yeah, when they first told me, hey, you should get, my eye doctor was like, you should get progressive lenses. I priced out some progressive lenses there at the eye doctor's place, and they were like $650 for the glasses. And I was like, oh, jeez. And then a friend of mine was like, well, you can also get, glasses online. And she suggested Zenni. And I was like, yeah, but I need progressive like lenses or whatever. And she's like, yeah, they can do that. I'm like, all right. And I went online and I checked it out and I priced out some glasses, and they cost $65 instead of $650. And I was like, I've spent $65 on dumber crap before. Let's give it a shot. And they've worked great. So I've been using Zenni glasses now, like I said, for 10 years, maybe more. And like I had a friend one time who's like, well, yeah, but what if they break? And I'm like, what if $650 glasses break? So anyway, yeah. That's what I've done. So then the benefit then is that you can get multiple pairs of glasses for cheaper than getting one pair of glasses from the eye doctor. There you go. There's your class for today. But I appreciate their Ringo Death Star. Nice. I find it easier to make fantasy terrain by hand with clay, foam, cardboard for modeling, but my grandmother was a professional sculptor, painter, and cartoon animator. Neato. That's pretty cool. There was a kid once experimented with effects photography and created a shot of what he called a Russian fighter. Interesting. I do actual minis in Blender. I don't know if I'll ever get to doing minis. Because I've talked to people about like, oh, I'm starting to like sculpt stuff and try to learn to sculpt stuff. And they're like, oh, you should make your own minis. I'm like, oh, that's a lot. I don't know if I want to go, like making a building is one thing. They're generally like, there's a difference between what they call hard surface modeling and like organic modeling. Like a person for the most part is kind of organic, like a building that's a lot of right angles and maybe some curves. And it's like, this is easier to do than to make a dude, right? So yeah, I don't know if I see myself going down that road. Agents came to his house thinking he caught a real one on film. Nice. Have you checked out the Lazy Forger terrain? The name sounds super familiar, but I don't know that I have. But someone's mentioned that name to me recently. You don't have to update Blender and you can still get older versions of it. Yeah, but I got the most recent version. I got like version 5 because I was like, oh, that's the newest one. I should get that one. So, a lot of the stuff translates over as far as like the classes and things. But if you go like really far back, like I saw one class that a lot of people had done on with the Skillshare. And I was like, oh, I'll check it out. And it was from like 3 years ago. And it was like a version 3 version, I think, of Blender, maybe. And there was a lot of interface differences. And I was like, oh, that's not going to work. So, let me see. Gotham City Chronicles is made by Monolith, a 1v all board game. I guess they recently added tabletop RPG as well. Lots of cool Batman miniatures. Oh, that's cool. Tempted to buy a couple of the Hex Tech terrain sets for Battletech, and not as pricey as some of the other offerings, and painted. Yeah, I own some of those. They're nice, actually. They're made by, I think, Gale Force 9 / Battlefront Miniatures or whatever, and they're not particularly crazy expensive. But yeah, they are painted too, which is nice. Learning OPR Age of Fantasy Quest with my kids today. Should be fun. It will be fun, I think. Yeah, sounds great. One famous shipwreck from the old GW had an escape pod made from a toilet ballcock assembly. Is that like the thing that goes in the bottom to make it so that it stops making the water come out? That's kind of cool. Going to be all of 8 degrees in Omaha today. Well, I mean, if we're lucky, we'll hit 7. My boy will be priming close to 40 Zangors and a couple of giant Tyranids today. Thanks for your last video. Absolutely, absolutely. Blender is an amazing tool. Been using it for making my terrain, sculpting my miniatures. If you need some pointers, I can give you what little knowledge I have. I also sell Greeblies. Nice, nice. I think I saw you post about that recently somewhere. Blue Sky, maybe? Have you shown off any of your 30-minute missions model kit work yet? Hoping for Chrome Ranger's shirt. Chrome Ranger's shirt, still probably in progress. I haven't built any of the 30-minute miniatures or 30-minute mission stuff yet. I have 2 of those boxes, and I've been meaning to, but it's just been like the last 2 videos have been videos that have taken up a bit more time. Luckily, the video this week about the priming in the cold did decently well. It did pretty well. So for those of you that don't know, if you're a YouTuber, these days you're always trying to pay attention to the number, not the number of views, but the number of your video. And what I mean by that is they'll give you a number. Like currently, right now, the video that I did on Friday is at a 2 out of 10. Now you would go, well, 2 out of 10, that's bad. Oh my Lord, it's a 1 out of 10. How did that even happen? Wow. Okay. All right. So, so basically what they're doing is they, in the app that you use for YouTube and stuff, they will say, okay, let's say the video's been up for 8 hours. They will compare this amount of views on this video at the 8-hour mark with the last 9 videos that you did and look at them also at the 8-hour mark. So it's not comparing, oh, well, this video's got less views than that video, but this video's only been up for 4 hours and that one's been up for 3 weeks. Like that wouldn't make any sense. So what it's doing is it's comparing at this time your current video in comparison to the last 9 videos, which makes then a group of 10 videos, is in this place. First place is 1 out of 10, and that's great. 10th place, like 10 out of 10, you'd be like, oh, 10 out of 10, that's awesome. 10 out of 10 is terrible, because that means it's in 10th place of the last 10 videos, including that itself. When I woke up on Friday morning, the priming video was at 5 out of 10. I'm like, But before I got out of bed, what I have a tendency to do on Friday morning is I answer a lot of comments while I'm laying there, and then I eventually get up and then get ready, and then I have to go stream and I eat breakfast first. But before I got out of bed, it was at 4 out of 10. I'm like, neat. And then eventually, like sometime during my streaming on Friday morning, it was at 3 out of 10. So it was accelerating, because sometimes they'll do that. And sometimes they'll also start good and then also slow down. So it was accelerating, and then sometime Friday night, it got to 2 out of 10. I'm like, well, that's awesome. I didn't expect to get 1 out of 10, because the video that's at the 1 out of 10 was my looking towards 2026 in the future for the channel kind of video. And those have a tendency to get decent numbers and stuff like that. But yeah, at the 2-day and 7 hours mark, looking towards 2026 video from several weeks back, was at 24,100 views, and the prime your models in the freezing whatever is at 25,100 views. So that's pretty awesome. Anyway, both that video and then the video from the week before that, which was about adding texture onto 3D prints and stuff, like that video did garbage. That video did really bad. That started at like a 9 out of 10 and then eventually went to a 10 out of 10. It is currently 9 out of 10, so it's moved itself up a little bit, but oof. Yeah, it's so the long and the short of it is both those videos took longer to make because there was a lot of like filming that I had to do down in the basement of me working on stuff and doing things, and filming outside of me priming and doing all this kind of stuff. So there's a lot more moving parts. And so because of that, I haven't had a lot of time to like sit down and just do some hobby. I'm not going to have any time today either because I've got to get the podcast edited after we get back from the lunch at the in-laws. So, yeah. Anyway, where are we at? But Chrome Ranger shirt, yeah, I still want to do something like that. Hope everyone's staying warm. Nap God, I hope so as well. Edo City. I don't know what Edo City means, though. Do you need ventilation for that bamboo printer? If you are printing normal PLA, which is the type of resin, or not resin, sorry, filament, generally no. No, it's basically if I get real close to it when it's printing, like if I get within like a foot of the nozzle, I can smell, it's like a sweet smell. Like it doesn't, I can't smell it at all anymore. But while it's actually heating up the plastic, it's got this slightly sweet smell. So it's not stinky at all, but you can technically smell it if you get close. Now, I'm sure there's somebody who's going to be like, well, technically that is dangerous and will kill you if you are a mouse in California and you sniff it, but nothing but that. And I'm sure that there's probably some truth to that. I would not put it in a tiny little room and then live in that tiny little room with that printer 99% of the time. It's sitting in my basement, and my basement's roughly the size of the footprint of the house. So it's fine. Resin printers definitely give off a lot more of a stink, and that stink is a lot more dangerous generally. So there's that too. But yeah, otherwise, no, I don't think that the bamboo printers, like there's a type of filament you can print, which I don't even know if the A1 will print that type, but there's this stuff called ABS, which is a much stronger plastic. I don't know what ABS stands for, I forget. But that stuff has definitely got a bit more of a smell when you're printing it. So from what I've been told, it's a good idea if you print a lot of ABS to ventilate. But like I said, the printer I have, I don't even think can print ABS. I think it can only do PLA and PETG, and I don't even know what PETG is for. So I just print PLA because I'm simple. Spent years working in Autodesk apps like plain old CAD and PipeCAD, so now I just do my terrain pieces in FreeCAD and then bring them into Blender and then to Shadowbox. Sure, I get that. I was looking at some other CAD programs too. Fusion sucks. I hate it. So sorry, AutoCAD, but I don't like it. I looked at SolidWorks for a hot minute and was like, I also have this thing called Plasticity that I like. I still have it, don't I? It's not in my dock on my Mac. Oh, yeah. Because that's right. I had to update it, so I moved it. Yeah. But Plasticity, so part of what I'm looking at myself doing is maybe building the shapes in Plasticity and then taking them over to Blender to be able to do more sculpty stuff like I was talking about before, putting like cracks in walls and things like that. So we'll see how that works. Because I find Plasticity is much easier to quickly build things with. Like, oh, I have this shape and I need to do this and I need to do that. It's just faster to do in Plasticity than it is in Blender, but it doesn't have a lot of the other stuff, like I said, the texturing and whatnot. Do you have a favorite filament? I mainly just use the PLA Basic from Bamboo Lab. I used to use, when I first started, I used the PLA Matte, and I don't know why, but I just switched over to basic. I also switched over. I used to be always printing in black, and now I started printing in gray. And the benefit is that when I go in and I prime it black, I can tell if I missed any spots. Priming black on top of black filament, you miss things and you don't realize it until later when you're painting and you're like, oh, there's no primer underneath there. Oh, okay. So that I've recently switched over to gray. So now when I'm going to prime it, I can tell whether I missed any spots or not because I'm priming with gray on black or black on gray, and it just works better. Using a 3D printer is 1,000% easier than using an inkjet printer. Oh my God. Yeah. Like, specifically Bamboo. I don't know about the other ones. I've never used any of the other printers, but I've been told that other printers can sometimes take a lot more tweaking and, you know, dialing in and stuff like that. But when I just tell my Bamboo Lab to print something, I know it's going to do it 99% of the time. We have a laser printer upstairs that I'm like, it might not, you know what I mean? And that's made by HP, which is a much bigger company. You know what I mean? So I don't know. The Arthurian Chronicles. Love your work, Uncle Adam Pachow. Well, thank you very much. I suppose ancient stuff was less cracked and timey-wimey weathered than it was now, depending on the era you're settling your game in. True. Resistance to filament printing is not the expense or the learning curve or anything like that. It's the embarking, essentially, on a whole new hobby. Oh, I mean, okay. I thought you were comparing filament to resin, but you're just talking about filament to like just scratch building stuff. I get it. And I would have, years ago, I would have said that for sure. Like I had friends that were into filament stuff and I would have them print me things and they would be like, yeah, I had to do this several times and I had to tweak this and I had to do this and I had to, and you know, I'd be like, hey, sorry or whatever. And they're like, oh, it's fine. My good friend Matt printed a bunch of different buildings for me and he was using enders and things like that and whatever. And there would be times that just stuff wouldn't work or, you know, there's problems and things like that. Bamboo is just so simple. Like I said, I think it's more, it is a better printer than my HP LaserJet printer. And I wish that it could print paper. Man, that'd be awesome. If it could like print buildings, but I could also print a PDF with it. That would be great, but no. But yeah, I definitely think like I'm not interested in getting into a 3D printing hobby per se, even though I am now starting to actually do modeling and things like that, but that's maybe a different story. But you can just absolutely go on to places like My Mini Factory, you know, buy, you know, cool terrain stuff, print it out, paint it, boom, done. There's not a lot of learning you have to do. It's relatively simple when you're dealing with bamboo. And people are like, yeah, but it's like a closed architecture. It's like, you know, I'm like, okay, but it really works. So I don't know. I guess I'm, you know, me being at this point now in my life, basically 100% a Mac person. I'm not super sad about closed architecture. My wife and I like to watch this show called Tech Linked, which is part of the Linus Tech Tips group. And it's just about tech news. And the main guy who does the announcing is a guy named Riley. And he's pretty funny. And so that's what part of why we watch. A lot of times he's talking about stuff I have no idea what he's talking about. He's talking about some processor and this and that and the other thing and whatever. And you're just like, sure, dude, that's fine. But one thing that keeps coming up over and over and over again recently, the last year, is about how Windows 11 is such a dumpster fire. And they're like, hey, let's put advertising in there and tell you, hey, you should look at this and you should. And I've never been happier to be working with Mac OS at this point because it doesn't do any of that stuff and it just works. And so, yeah, I don't know. I'm not a tinkerer and I like the Bamboo A1 so much, like so much. So just FYI. Let's see here. I am intrigued by the latest skirmish game by Mike Hutchinson of Gasland's fame and glory, Rad Pirates of the Toxic Sands. Created out of the One Box Indie Game Challenge. Well, that's cool. I did not know he was making a game. Because the One Box Indie Game Challenge, that was mainly Malev and Wargame Atlantic. Were they working together? Or was it just Malev? I know it was definitely Malev that started it. And it's cool that Mike got involved in that. That's really cool. Rad Pirates of the Toxic Sands. Well, that's fun. I've not met Mike. No. But I like some of his stuff. And I've listened to him on a podcast. Does he have his own podcast? I know I listened to him on a podcast at least once. I build my own 3D printers. Bamboo are good machines, but they're spoiling the nice things we at the RepRap movement have done. I don't know what a RepRap is, so sorry about that. They're spoiling the nice thing. I don't know what that means. I found a video last week from another creator explaining the Trench Crusade drama. I rolled my eyes throughout the video. Just seems like teething problems. Yeah, I mean, you know, there have been some people just got to make drama. You know what I mean? And that's, well, whatever. It's fine. Discourse Minis, she did a video recently about the drama as well and everything. And I'm like, I don't know. I talked about it a little bit yesterday in the Patreon live show I do for the Patreon Uncle Adams or regulars at the $4 level a month. I do a live show every month generally. Usually it would be not this weekend, but normally it would have been 2 weekends ago, or when I was in Peoria, but I was in Peoria. So we moved it a little bit. So it was yesterday, and talked a little bit about like the drama that's getting drummed up is that Only Games, the company that's printing the 3D printed Trench Crusade stuff for people who don't have 3D printers, is probably overwhelmed and not necessarily 100% making the perfect prints that they send to everybody, which I'm not completely surprised about. I've gotten things printed from Only Games in the past, and they were fine. I had a couple of bendy swords, but that was that's to be expected. You get bendy swords from WizKids models sometimes too, and those aren't even 3D printed. You heat up some water and you bend them back, and then you put them in some cold water, and it's not too hard. But I don't know. I feel like it's a lot of drumming up for just reasons. The people who are angry because they're not making any more STLs because they're moving into plastic, that I don't get. Like, I don't know. Maybe someplace they said, we promise that every miniature we'll make from now on will always be done in STL and also plastic. And then they've decided to change their mind on that. But I don't believe they ever said that. But, initially when I heard people complaining about it, I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. So they're going to take away the STL files that are on my mini factory. No, that's not the case at all. The ones that are up there. You can still buy them. You can still use them or whatever. You can use the ones if you back the Kickstarter. The people are just mad that there aren't 3D printed Prussians, I think. Well, partially. The way that you design stuff for plastic is very different than the way you design stuff for STLs. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have a problem with the things that they're doing, but, I'm also not usually into making videos about drama either, so. Let me see here. Good morning from Georgia. How you doing, NapGod? Oh, geez, everything moved. Man, one of these days, it'd be awesome if they would fix their chat window, but not yet. No Nick supporting you on stream today? He's back there. He's back there in the window. You can kind of see him right there. There we go. Okay, Georgia. Love my bamboo printer. Paid for itself after the first spool of filament used. Nice. Resin, high-quality bits, and scratch-built ping foam, hardboard, and plastic hard is my favorite way to go. Nice. Yeah. $20 a roll will do a lot of terrain. $12.99 a roll will do a lot of terrain too, yeah. If you print terrain with FDM, learn how to use the variable layer height settings. It can significantly improve the print quality in key areas without increasing the print time. Yeah, I need to look into more about some of that. My friend Dave was like, hey, you can like paint layer heights and stuff like that. And I started to mess with it, and I did it the exact opposite way you're supposed to do it or something, and it was not great. So I gotta watch some videos. I'll be very honest, I have a tendency to just set my settings like I'm using a 0.4 nozzle and I am setting my settings at 0.08 layer height. And sure, it'll take a day to print stuff sometimes, but I'm not a factory. I'm making stuff that I'm gonna, paint and things like that. Like these things, like especially as soon as you start getting into anything that's like organic like this, you can't see any layer lines on this, I'm very impressed by the print quality. And then even something like this, where you've got a lot of just very flat areas and things like that, if I catch it in the right light, I can see some layer lines, but my thought with sci-fi terrain is always that they're probably going to 3D print it in the future anyway. And when I say that, what I mean is this building could have just been 3D printed in place, like in world, in story. You know what I mean? And if someone's like, well, there's layer lines, I'm like, well, yeah, like a machine drove up and then they printed this stand there in place and drove away. It's 3D printed. And they're like, no, you 3D printed the piece of terrain. I'm like, yeah, but in world, it was 3D printed. So that's why it looks like that. That's how you do it. Because we're already 3D printing buildings now in the real world. I just watched a CNBC video on YouTube about a neighborhood in Texas where all the houses are 3D printed. And it's super cool. And I'm like, and one of the ladies they were talking to who lives, is an older lady who lives in one of the houses, she's like, I really love it because it's really quiet in here. Like I can't hear road noise. And I'm like, oh God, I want that so bad. I want it to not hear loud trucks and people with loud mufflers and motorcycles in my house. That'd be so dope. But yeah. Sunlu make decent filament. Fat Dragon Games, that's what they suggest, because Fat Dragon Games, they've got like a lot of they great folks and they make cool stuff, but they're definitely like pushing the idea of like, yes, you can print miniatures with FDM, but there's like a lot of like, they're like, you should use this filament and you should use these settings and you should do this and do that and all that kind of stuff. And they're okay, you know, like you can only just see their legs back here on top of this thing, but I have both of my Chrome Rangers robots up there. They're both FDM printed, but one's like 5 inches tall and one's like 6.5 or 7 inches tall probably. But I don't know that I'd want to print. Still to this day, I don't know that I'd want to print a guy this big in FDM. You know what I mean? It's just not. But there are people out there that are like, no, it looks fine. It looks okay. With a big robot like that, and you're playing on a tabletop, it looks fine. I'm just still not, 100%, but stuff that's like, I did that robot. I did that video a couple of years ago or a year ago or whatever, where I printed an FDM robot. And then Dave printed the same robot for me in resin, and I compared them, the two of them. And I could have done better with the FDM one. There's a lot of people who are like, well, you could have done this and sanded it and, used acetone and all this stuff. And I'm like, I just wanted to show like base, like what happens. And in general, if you set them down on the table and you stand back a foot or two, you can barely tell the difference, really. If you like get close, you're like, oh well, yeah, I can definitely tell now. But, I don't know. For game play pieces, bigger pieces, I think the FDM works great. But for little tiny dudes, it's still, at least as far as I'm concerned. I've seen packets of resin bits for building details like ventilators, junction boxes at a local game store, but never seem to have the extra dough to get a few packs. Sure. Yeah, there's, I printed a bunch. I don't remember who made them. Oh, I think it was, I bought them from, or no, they came in the Cyberpunk, the stuff from Corvus Games Terrain, I think. There was a bunch of like, air conditioning units and electrical junction boxes and stuff like that. And I printed a bunch of those out, and then I can put them on either on scratch built stuff that I have, or I could just put them on other things, or whatever. Like, if I've got like a piece of terrain that's maybe, let's say 3D printed, and I just think that there should be another air conditioner there, why not? Boom, it's easy. Scratch building terrain pieces for Trench Crusade and Full Spectrum Dominance. I need something to listen to while messing around. Nice. Well, there you go. I'm builder converter in the hobby first, but some kits these days are so over the top, I'm even debating putting them aside. I mean, 7 or 8 bits a leg. I know, right? Like a couple of years ago, was it 2 years ago? I think it was 2 years ago. Those of us on the factory team for the Army Painter, we were all going to bring models to Adepticon to, I think, play Combat Patrol with. And I was going to bring my Dark Angels Combat Patrol. So I was, the Intercessors were done. The Chaplain was nearly done. The Redemptor Dreadnought was done. All I had to do was build the 3 dudes with the weird jump packs. I think they're called suppressors maybe. And so it was like a Sunday morning and I didn't have a stream to do. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to just, build these 3 models. And then when I get back from lunch, then I'll prime them. And after like 2 or 3 hours or whatever, I had built 3 of their jump packs. That's it. I hadn't been able to get to any of the rest of the models yet. I had only in that time been able to build their jump packs because each of their jump packs were 11 pieces. It's a jump pack. Calm down. You know what I mean? Like I just, oh God. So I never did get that thing finished. Those 3 guys are still unfinished and, you know, it is what it is. And so, yeah, GW needs to dial that shit back, frankly. I'm just really, really, really tired of it. Evidently, according to Vince, the Horns of Hashut or whatever the Chaos Dwarves are, the new Chaos Dwarves. He said to me, he's like, you would like them because they're not that many pieces. Like you glue a head on, you glue some arms on, and then there you go. And I'm like, that would be nice, but man, they're just nuts about let's make this 28 parts. You know what I mean? And I don't think it's a necessity. So it's just one of the reasons why I haven't been buying their stuff lately either. I like Anvil's multi-part kits. Yeah, exactly. Like head, torso, arms, legs, done. It's easy. More often than not, the legs are together. Like it's one piece. It's like pelvis and legs are one part, and then torso is another part, and then arm, gun, head. Easy. Happy Sunday from Blizzard Central in the woods of New York. I hope it's not too bad. Stuff like Anvil's multi-party kits, I often at least partially assemble in Mesh Mixer. Oh, I could see that, sure. I want to invest in a new PLA and resin printer, but part of me also wants to wait and see how this new proposed federal printing ban software compliance law turns out. I haven't heard anything about that. Saucerman Studios makes an excellent sci-fi cyberpunk city terrain setup. I have some of their stuff. I'm 98% sure I bought some. Saucerman Studios sounds really familiar. Like I have a hard drive, like an external 2 terabyte hard drive that I just put all my STLs on. And I think I own some of their stuff. I don't remember what it was. And I'm looking here. Oh, yeah. Sci-fi building bundle. Websites. This one right here. Yeah. I bought some of the, I bought this bundle here, and I've printed one of these buildings. Did I print this? I don't know. I printed at least one of these buildings. Not that one. Maybe that one. Yeah. And they're cool. Yeah. It's partially, I was looking for something that seemed like it was a little bit more hard. Oh, this is the one I printed. That's from Wargames Co. But I also have some of the Saucerman stuff too in my library. I don't think I've printed all of them. I think I've only printed the one that's sort of the same shape. Like I said, I think I've printed this one here, which is that. Yeah. Because it's got a nice ladder and then there's some cover, but there's also the top part. It's, you know, I almost never print my stuff with, like the roof. You can take it off so you can play on the inside. If it has that, I just glue the stuff together because I'm not playing inside the buildings. And some people are like, well, you can't do that. And I'm like, oh, I assure you I can. Aeon was the White Wolf RPG that was changed to Trinity. Yep. Wargame version Battleground was very short-lived, canceled within a year. The RPG did have some cringe WW edgelord. Well, I mean, you know, White Wolf, what are you going to do? Print yourself a Stargate. It's a great way to turn your fantasy terrain into sci-fi terrain. Oh, yeah. Gaddis Gaming, how you doing? So my challenge for this year is to learn how to make my own decals, or decals, that's what Vince likes to call them, decals, for my 1/4000th scale FASA spaceships using koala decal paper. I always pronounced Zarly like Charlie. It could be. I thought the basalt bases from Charlie didn't like them. Very bad for actually putting a mini on them. I think when bases get too fancy, then it can be hard to put a mini on them in general, yeah. I keep my bases relatively simple because I'd rather have people look at my miniatures than my bases. I don't know. I know some people very strongly believe in the concept of faces and bases. Like you spend the majority of the time painting the face and the base. Those are the two parts I have a tendency to spend the least amount of time on. So, I don't know. I'm not saying I'm any good. Snow Apocalyptic Ohio, good morning. Miniature Terrain has added a new level of play to my Zombicide games. Oh yeah, I can see that, for sure. I've been collecting old miniature and miniature games and went down a rabbit hole reading about Steve Jackson's aborted Universal Miniatures Rules Hot Lead. It was supposed to be a GURPS for war games. I never heard of that. That's interesting. Lamington is a sponge cake covered in chocolate and coconut. I would give it a try. I'm not a super huge coconut fan, but, you know, I'm not against it or allergic to it either, so that's good. I still have an empty shelf of shame, capable of getting a mini to be finished. I mean, the trick is you just have to eventually be like, this is as far as I'm going to go with it. Like if you're like constantly like, well, I need to go in and just do a 16th layer of, you know, shadow on that knee pad, get some other stuff done. Thoughts on Conflict 47? I started building some of the fireflies, and I did not like them. I couldn't get the arms to go on right on the torsos, and the guns ended up getting bent, and it's just, so I don't know. I haven't gone much further than there, unfortunately. Love the video about painting in the cold. If you're ever up for Florida, can make video about how bad. Oh, yeah. Like, I've had a lot of people in the comments who are like, well, you should really do a video about humidity. I'm like, oh, wait, it'll happen. I mean, I don't know if the humidity will happen. Whether I make a video about it, I don't know. But I know that, you know, at some point this summer, it'll be like, well, tomorrow will be 98% humidity. And I'll be like, ugh. And I guess that's the day to try to, you know, do it. But yeah. Good morning from Austin, Texas. Currently at 21 degrees, less than 1 inch of ice, sleet and snow, and everything shuts down. Yeah. Like, if we get a foot of snow overnight, you generally still go to work, usually. If you get a whole lot of ice, sometimes it can be a problem, obviously. But if you get this, if it's snowing in the morning and you're getting a foot of snow, then school will sometimes get canceled a little bit, and sometimes it can be problems for work and things like that. But for the most part, we have the infrastructure in Wisconsin to take care of a decent amount of snow. But there are other parts of the country that obviously just don't. My wife's uncle lived in Baltimore for a while. He grew up in Wisconsin, but he lived in Baltimore for years and years. And he's like, yeah, we would get a ½ inch of snow in Baltimore and the city would shut down. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I get it. If you don't have the ability to deal with it, it's not easy. Originating from a French chef who was inspired by Lamington National Park. Oh, there you go. See, that makes sense. We're on our way to 20 inches of snow here. 20 inches of snow is not something that we're normally getting overnight. So that's a lot, for sure. Hello from Portland, Oregon, where I'm working on terrain for Gaslands. The multiple gates needed are becoming a chore. Yeah, that is one issue kind of with that game. Like, I think that Gaslands is a great game, but there's kind of a requirement in some scenarios for certain types of terrain that you kind of have to work on. Plus, there's the sort of custom dice, which you can kind of get around. But yeah. Like, I can tell you, Vince and I, we are always thinking when we're making our games, how hard is this going to be for people to source terrain, minis, that kind of stuff? It's always the thing that we're thinking about. I go through Payne's Gray for base coat and shadow like it's Frank's Red Hot. Sure, I get it. My Eldar and Elves have a full forest-type base. My Space Wolves have a Frosty Mountain planet base. There's a lot of folks out there that are like, well, your base should always be like the complementary color to your model. So if your model's mostly blue, you should be on an orange base. If it's mostly purple, it should be on a yellow base and stuff like that. No. For me, I just like, if it's a sci-fi guy and it's not, generally a mech or Star Wars Legion, then I'm putting it on the gray rubble base because then I can mix and match and it's a lot of fun. Good afternoon from England. I've recently fallen headfirst into the silver bayonet. Well, I hope you didn't catch it in the eye. The silver, it's pointy, but I see what you're saying. The silver bayonet's very cool. It didn't strike me like the story sounds great, but there's something about the time period that's not quite what I want to make miniatures for. I got to be honest with you folks. Lately, I'm mostly just about sci-fi, and lately I'm really into, obviously, like cyberpunk stuff. I've been a cyberpunk fan for years and years and years, but I've just become more and more interested in cyberpunk stuff. But I'm very glad that Silver Bayonet, Dracula's America, stuff like that is out there for people, who are interested in, like, I want to go pseudo-historical, but also have vampires and, stuff like that. So I think that's pretty cool. Just not necessarily for me. Pour moi. Let me see. Good morning from snowy Texas. How you doing? Any way to solo Munchkin? I don't know if there is. I don't know if there's a solo play to Munchkin. Maybe. Paint to play is my thing, but I still spend way too much time on some minis versus others. Yeah. Will you and Vince stay miniature agnostic? Yeah. I don't see us ever, like, we have worked with, if you go to the Snarling Badger website, and you go to games, and you go to Death Wizards, we did work with a company. We worked with Knucklebones Miniatures, who are great, and he made these 6 different models that are STLs for the necromancers. So, if you were like, I really like this War Reaper, she's really cool with her cool scythe and her scale mail and stuff like that, you can click on that, in theory, and it will take you to the model over at My Mini Factory, So we've done that, but in doing that, what we did was we liked what he was already doing. Like, his sculpting is awesome, and we were like, yep, this is totally up our street. So we went to him and said, hey, let's work together in some fashion. So basically, we didn't pay him to do anything here. We're doing 50-50. So he made these models, he sells them. And then every time he sells one, we get half and he gets half. So every month, he and his wife send us an email and a PayPal and say, here's some money. And that goes on for the first 2 years. So that'll end in June of this year, because the game came out in basically early June of 2024. And then after that, they'll just be his miniatures. And that's totally fine by us. Like, that, working in that situation worked out great in this situation. But no, we're never going to make plastics ever. I mean, it's incredibly expensive, astoundingly expensive. And I just like games where you get to use the miniatures you want to use. Again, you don't have to use these miniatures. At some point in the future, Vince and I have talked about this recently, maybe I'll be able to make some cool, like, terrain building STLs that you could then buy and then print to use in your game, of whatever of our upcoming games, maybe. I don't know, it's a possibility. Could happen. But yeah, we don't see ourselves ever making miniatures, plastic miniatures, like any kind of stuff like that. This is best case scenario, is we might be able to sell you some STLs. That's unfortunately just kind of the way it works. We're not cool enough to do plastics or, any of that thing like that. Whoops. There we go. If I had enough caffeine, I feel alive. Well, that's good to hear. Time to make some fantasy terrain. Nice. How do you feel about the proposed U.S. legislation on 3D printing, which also includes any subtractive manufacturing? I haven't heard anything about that. I didn't know that there was some sort of legislation on 3D printing. That sounds dumb. Is it because someone might make a 3D printed gun? Because that seems stupid, because people already make lots and lots and lots of non-3D printed guns that you can get anywhere all the time. So I don't know. I haven't heard about it. I'll have to look into it. Greetings from an unexpectedly not snowed in Cleveland. Well, that's good. I've got both Age of Sigmar's Path to Glory terrain to make and Old World stuff, so I decided to dig in myself. Nice. Anyone know of an app for organizing minis to keep track of what's painted and built and stuff like that? No, not that I know of. I started painting Battletech models. I used my military modeling paints, usually Testers, enamels, and Humbrol Tinlets, but Tamiya acrylics as well. Gotcha. Going through old drawers in storage last week and found a drawer with 80 Space Marine minis, 20 Terminators, and about a dozen character models from 1997 unfinished. So, new project. Well, there you go. What's your work situation these days? So I mainly have 3 jobs. I make YouTube videos. And then attached to that, I also have, so there's like some money that comes in from, the advertising revenue stuff from YouTube. But then I also have a Patreon. I also have a merch store. Twitch. I also do Twitch. So that's kind of one pillar. And then also there's the me and Vince making games pillar, which is not a big enough a pillar for either of us to, just focus on that. And I doubt it ever will be, but that's okay. It's a fun side gig. And then my third pillar is working with the Army Painter folks as part of the factory team. So basically, I have 3 jobs that nearly equal a single job, so that's fun. But I don't work. I used to be a web designer slash UX UI designer, depending on who you ask. And I did that for a number of years, and I worked in that stuff for a long, long time. And I stopped doing it full time in 2022. I'd been working for a company called Milk Can. It's great folks, and I needed more time for the stuff that I was doing for the YouTube and the game company and all that kind of stuff. So I was just doing freelance for them, and then I stopped doing freelance in 2024 because, again, my concern was at some point a big freelance gig was going to come up, and I was also going to have to lay out the next book for our game, and I was just like, I can't. So yeah, so I haven't done any freelance in a long time either, which is fine by me. So yeah, this is basically what I do, for ill or for good. Let's see here. Hope you stayed warm after those massive cold shocks. We're doing okay. What's the temperature currently now? Hey, it's a positive number. It is 1 Fahrenheit. It's been several days since it's been above 0, so hooray for us. If I ever get to try it, I should make some cyberpunk buildings in foam core. I have a load of accessories for them and really just need to come up with the structure. Yeah. Greetings from sunny, though quite chilly, Spain's east coast. Currently lying on the couch due to minor work-related injury. Oh, that's a bummer. I hope it's okay. Nothing big, and I'm almost recovered, but still hurts from time to time. I have progressive lenses. They are great, but I get a pair every 12 months as part of my healthcare package. Well, I mean, you live in a real country. Hello from Santa Cruz. I just dragged myself out of bed. The first thing that my wife asks is the Every Other Sunday show today. See, there you go. I spent $65 on Democrat before. Looks at my new Gray Hunters while I still have other ones unpainted. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. Just started using Pro Acrylic Brush On Primer. It dries very matte. It's awesome. Nice. Instagram can make for a decent hobby journaling program. Yeah, it's useless for nearly everything else, but it's good for that. We have more snow than my dogs have leg length. I mean, but are they still having a good time, or are they like, no, I don't like this? Because some dogs are like, this is awesome, and other dogs are like, I do not care for this. $2 reading glasses from the dollar store got me back to painting after struggling most of last year with degrading visual acuity. Sure. Not sure we have Zenny over here. I mean, it's online. So I don't know. They would probably they might ship to Australia. I'm assuming they would, but maybe not. Late because I was up till midnight for our Trench Crusade campaign. Nice. That's how I feel about Blackout. The figs need to be more organic. It looks like Chappie Wars. See, but I like that. I like, first of all, the thing that's great about the Blackout miniatures, to be perfectly honest with you, is they paint up really fast the way that I do it, because I'm like, they're military, so everything's kind of the same color. You know what I mean? You prime them a color, you give them a good zenithal of a color, you dry brush them a bit with a lighter color, you put some wash on them, and then you go through and pick out certain things, like I'm a tan soldier guy. Well, my outfit's tan or whatever. I think they call it a uniform, not an outfit, but whatever. But I have like this big pouch. Well, but it would still be tan, but it might be a different material or made by different manufacturers. So then I go in there and I give it like some wash on it to just make it still tan, but like slightly darker tan or whatever. And you're just going through and if you see like modern military folk, at least American modern military folk, like when they're in the Middle East, everything is tan. Slightly different shades of tan, but that's, so that's generally what I do. And it maybe isn't as interesting, but they're not supposed to be. They're supposed to be looking like military folk. Sometimes you can pick out like the, what are those guys? Manticore guys are mostly all black and gray, but they do have that red stuff going on. So you can pick out a little bit of that here and there, but I don't go crazy with them. They paint up real fast then. You can do a lot of sci-fi military type stuff. Snowy Toronto, how you doing, Bradley? The triumphant 1 and the crushing 10. This is where we live our lives. Absolutely, Heresy. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I don't know if I've ever had anything start at a 5 and then eventually work its way up to 10. That's crazy. I bet the 110 happened as folks started preparing for this. I mean, honestly, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think the fact that it was as cold as it was did help, because all of a sudden people are like, oh, it's really cold. I might want to prime. How do I watch? Yeah, and there is a little bit of luck there, I think. The other thing was, too, is I was thinking about doing this video like a week or two early, but at that time, it was not cold enough. It was like in the 20s, in the 30s almost. Well, yeah, there was a couple of days it was above freezing. So I was like, well, I'm not going to go and do it now. So I'm going to have to wait till it gets cold. And then it got cold, and then it got really cold while I was editing, and then here we are. Lazy Forger makes full spectrum dominance. That's why I know that name. That's why. Yeah. I had somebody email me about that. Yeah. Let's see here. Space Station Zero question. During setup, the maps have areas like E1, E2. What are these? Maybe I'm slow. It doesn't seem to find. Do I have a copy of Space Station Zero up here? I don't think so. I got Majestic 13. I got Death Wizards. I got Rain and Hell. I don't have my copy up here. I would generally, the zones, there's like a little diagram that'll show you like what the zones are, and it should have the sizes next to them as well. But best place to ask questions like that generally are actually in the Discord. So if you go to anywhere in the Snarling Badger website, up here, you can see up in the upper right corner, there's that little Discord thingy. If you click on that, that'll take you to the Discord, and then you could ask questions there. And there's like separate sections for the different games and stuff like that. Vince is super good about answering those questions. So that's what I would tell you to do. Excuse me. I think Pet G was in Public Enemy. You could be right. Your texture video was awesome and sad that it didn't do well. Yeah, I was sad too. But a lot of times I find that more tutorial, informational videos do lousy. But what are you going to do? Pet G is another alternative for stronger plastic, polyethylene terephthalate glycol. There you go. Yeah. Does all their minis in Fusion. They're a monster at it, but it isn't for the faint of heart. Yeah, I tried downloading it because there's a free version, and I downloaded it and started to watch a video, and then I was like, I hate this, and I immediately got rid of it. I was just like, nope. Plus, the thing that ticks me off about Fusion, this is crazy. So AutoCAD's a big company, right? They've been around the block. They've got money, right? You can use Fusion for free. But if you start to make money with it, and by start to make money, if you make $1,000 in a year, then you need to pay them every year to use Fusion. I get it. Are you paying them $50 a year? Are you paying them $100 a year? No. If you make $1,000 in a year, you have to pay them $680 of those dollars. Are you high? Like what? Just, yeah. So not using it. Thank you. I would rather pay, like, plasticity, I think, is $150 a year, but it's not a subscription. You pay $150. And then if you want an update next year, you pay $150 for next year. But if you don't, you could just still keep using the old version, and we're not going to turn it off. It's not a subscription. It's just that we update it. And if you want to update, then you pay. It's actually cheaper than, it's like $150, I think, to start. And then it's cheaper if you renew at a certain time or whatever, but you don't have to. It's not like Photoshop where, like, hey, you didn't pay this month, you don't get to use Photoshop anymore, which means all your Photoshop documents are screwed. You can still keep using it. You're just not getting the new features and stuff like that. And if you want the new features, well, you can upgrade and, whatever. But I don't know. It's very annoying. $680 a year. Are you high? Matte PLA is good if you're printing in color without painting it afterwards. Yeah, because I'm painting everything, like literally everything that I'm taking off the machine, I thought that basic eventually seemed like a better plan, Do a lot of printing on inkjet laser printers. I've learned to hate them. Yeah, no, they're very bad. I don't disagree. A friend of mine started using his printers to make drone parts lately. I can see that. Are there any STL companies you like for sci-fi? I mean, for terrain and stuff like that? Let me see here. So War Games Co., these were pretty cool little buildings. Saucerman Studios, Dark Realms Forge. They made these kind of cool looking sci-fi buildings. Come on. I haven't printed either of these yet, but I need to. They're pretty cool. See a cool picture down here of someone who painted one. That's kind of neat. So, yeah. Corvus Games Terrain. Corvus Games Terrain's got tons of stuff going on, and you can buy it direct from them too, if you're into that. But they've got tons and tons and tons of stuff. So if you're looking for 6mm sci-fi, Galactic Battles is basically kind of Star Wars-y. You know, if you're headed into like a little bit of a Naboo kind of situation or whatever, then they've got pages and pages of stuff. Got lots of shipping containers and some sci-fi, like cyberpunky stuff. But yeah, they've got a ton of different things if you're into that kind of thing. So yeah, Corvus is one of the bigger ones that I've been buying stuff from. I keep thinking about getting one of these. That's kind of cool. But I also... if you're into Trench Crusade, I bought trench stuff from them too. Trench Wars is what they call it. And I bought and printed one of these. This was cool. And I also bought these, and I printed two of them. I printed one with the cross on top, and then I printed another one without the cross on top, but it wasn't the bad guys one. But then I like kind of used pliers and clippers to like cut it all up to make it look like it got shot off or whatever. So these two are in progress of getting painted. They're done in the airbrush room, and now I just need to sit down and paint them. But this thing is done. I don't have a... Well, it was in a video recently. It was in the video that I did, not this week, but last week, the one about the texture stuff. So you can see a finished version of it in that video. And then I brought it home and dropped it. So it was fine. I broke off like one antenna. I just got to glue it back on. But otherwise, it was fine. So that's good. Let's see here. My Anycubic resin printer was literally plug and play, though. You definitely want some kind of ventilation or fume enclosure. It worked perfectly right out of the box. Well, that's good. I'm on both environments. I had zero issues with Windows 12. 11. Okay, I was like, wait a minute. With Windows 11, I keep hearing all these articles and seeing all these things, people talking about the way that they're, like there's all this like sneaky advertising stuff that they put in there and all this constant like AI, hey, Copilot, and I just don't want any of that. Hutchinson does a podcast on game design. He's a very good book on it too. Did I hear that? I know I heard him on a podcast, but I don't know if it was his or something else. I've watched a couple of his videos on YouTube for the Planet Smasher Games thing. Let's see. The A1 and the A1 Mini pretty much the same, or are there subtle nuances? I think the A1's got a nicer screen, and the A1 Mini is physically maybe a touch smaller. I like the A1. I did when I was looking at the two of them, I decided to go with the A1, but I've never technically used an A1 Mini. He's a do-it-yourselfer and doesn't like that someone made it easier. Who? What? Who? Hence the quotes. What are we talking about? Let's see. Whoops. Come on. Ominously peeping, Nick Ramondo. Nick Ramondo is totally doing that. There we go. There's a very detailed video from Genovich that goes into the details. It's very thorough and proves his points. I mean, I don't know. With Jervis Johnson and Andy Chambers, who've been brought onto the board of Trench Crusade design and development team. Yeah, they've been writing a lot of stuff, I know, for sure. I bought from Only Games once last spring. It took almost 2 months to get my stuff, and some of the prints weren't even that good and came broken. None of my stuff came broken, and again, it was probably 2 years ago that I bought from them, maybe longer. And it didn't take that long, but it did take a good long time. And I think at this point, I mean, here's the problem. The big problem is that printing 3D at scale is really hard. You printing at home in your house and producing things you want to use, not that hard. Trying to like constantly keep dancing as fast as you can and crank out all this stuff and ship it all over the world in 3D printing is difficult. Someone yesterday in the Patreon chat was like, well, but like, you know, most of the 3D printed models for Blackout are being made by Death Ray Designs and they do fine. And I'm like, yeah, but they're also didn't have a $3.3 million Kickstarter, you know, sitting on top of it. I got to believe that a lot of the money in that Kickstarter was from people who were like, I want those models, but I don't have access to a 3D printer. I would love to see the numbers. If you were like, how much of that money was for the book, how much money of that was for the STLs, and how much money for that was for the only games printed, pre-printed STLs or whatever. The percentages I think would be very surprising because I bet you a lot of it was heading into that. I need you to print it and send it to me, and yeah, I think that both Factory Fortress, is that the name of the overall company? The Trench Crusade folks and the Only Games folks, I think probably bit off more than they could chew. Struggling with capacity? Yeah, I think so too. As much as I enjoy Nick looking through the door, I can't help but think he would enjoy being in the room more. The problem is that sometimes it gets real cold in here. And so if I've got, like right now it's kind of cold in here because I have the door closed. So the reason we don't, and also sometimes it gets real warm, it's more of a temperature variation thing. She doesn't want her cello, which is inside of Nick, to get warm and cold and all that kind of stuff. It's not good for the cello, I guess. I don't know. Let's see here. Don't really care much about layer lines, especially terrain. Yeah, same here. 0.8 if you're not in a hurry, and I'm usually not, yeah. Do you print your terrain on I do 0.4 nozzle. I have a 0.2 nozzle that I've messed with, but it usually at least doubles the time. So for my terrain, I just use the 0.4 nozzle, but I do use the 0.08 layer height or whatever. Let's see here. I know you printed some ships for the Fat Dragon game ship. Did you ever play it? Yeah, I don't have all the rest of the stuff printed that I need, but I have messed around with it a little bit just by myself. It's a cool game, but the problem that I have with it, not with the rules at all, but there's like a lot of like extra little stuff. Like there's the ship and then there's a base. And the problem is you have to print, like they suggest it's best to print it on like paper or glossy sticker paper, like the diagram that shows front arc, back arc, left, right, whatever. And then you stick that on the base and then, you know, I wish they had done that differently. I wish they had made those things also 3D because like that's the thing. It's really easy for me to 3D print the parts for that game. It's a pain in the butt to then also have to add like printed stuff to it, like on paper, because again, 3D printer, because paper printers kind of suck. Let's see here. You could always just think a bit like Jeremy with his fascination with old video technology. Just say you're looking at the FDM printed model on an 80s TV. He and I are very different. Blackmagic Craft Jeremy and I are very different in that, like, he has a definite like retro love for like that type of stuff. Like he's obviously got a huge videotape collection and he's got like CRT TVs and things like that. I am not nostalgic for much of anything these days. I see videos, there's people that I follow on YouTube who are photographers who are absolutely in love with film, and usually I can't watch because I'm just like, ugh. There's a couple people that I watch on YouTube who I like because they're good photographers and they're funny, but they're like addicted to film and that's all they ever shoot. And so I just watch them for them and for the photography, but I can't care less about film, and I'm not interested in VHS, and I'm not, you know what I mean? Like all that like kind of retro stuff. I know that the folks that are younger than me these days are into, I just saw a thing recently. I think it was Lewis Black on the Daily Show talking about how the Gen Z kids are getting back into flip phones and cigarettes, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want any of that. So I've never been that into retro stuff, particularly these days. So I want to shoot digital. I want to shoot digital, and I want to shoot, and I want to watch Blu-rays and streaming in 4K if possible on a nice TV. And yeah, I don't even like 4:3. You know what I mean? Like the aspect ratio, like the aspect ratio you're watching this in right now is called 16:9. But like old TVs back in the day were narrower. I'm sorry, I'm still on the screen. They were narrower, because the screen was a little bit closer to being square. It was what's known as 4:3. And one of the guys that I watch on YouTube who's really into film, but I still watch him anyway, he always shoots all of his videos in 4:3, and it drives me nuts. It's fine if you're watching it in a browser, because then the browser will just automatically, but when you're watching it on your television, which is 16:9, then you get black bars on the side. And anyway. Let's see here. There's a woman FDM printing life-size Space Marines. She makes videos about it. Oh, I mean, there's a lot of people that use FDM for cosplay stuff. Years and years ago, I had a friend print me like a cool, like a chaos, like a chaos with the arrows and all that kind of stuff. And then I painted it, and then I kept it on my, like, when I go to conventions, I'd have like it's like a little pouch you put your badge in and stuff like that and everything like that. But I don't know where it is now. Let's see. Hello from Jacksonville, Florida. Just wanted to say someone called the church and check if hell froze over. New Nightbringer and Necrosaur are fairly easy to assemble. Oh, that's good. I think Sam did the Nightbringer. I think they sent him a copy of the Nightbringer. I love the modern models, but 11 pieces per jump pack is out of control. Yeah, I do not disagree. Let's see here. I sculpted some characters with jump packs, and I did jump packs in 2 parts with the engines open, one with them closed. Choose which one you want. See, that's fine. Got an Elgum Rs 5 Ultra resin printer for Xmas. It's not as easy as my beloved Bamboo 1 or A1, but auto level features have really improved user experience hugely. I've heard that, like, that's the thing. I'm just waiting for someone to make basically a Bamboo Lab A1, but in resin. I don't know if that's going to happen, but you know what I mean? Jump Chaplain in metal is a lawn dart. I mean, well, yeah. I ended up putting my metal jump pack Marines on 40mm bases to prevent them from constantly falling over. Well, I absolutely love my game-ready base mixes. It's a splurge to buy basically a bag of rocks, fake grass, and dust, but it's such an easy way to unify an army, and it's quick after post-painting burnout. See, I always do my basing before I paint. Like, the texture part goes on before I even prime, and then I paint the model, and then the last thing I do is paint the base, and then, of course, the rim. But I don't paint the model, and now it's time to texture the base, because I've never done it that way. Let's see here. Ohio as well, definitely bad out here. Well, that's no good. If we had a foot of snow overnight in the UK, the entire country would collapse. Well, I mean, yeah. Tennessee is not equipped for a ton of snow and ice, so it's rare that it's not feasible to have the equipment. It's so rare that it's not. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Like, we have the infrastructure because it happens. If we get 2 or 3 inches of snow in Portland, Oregon, all the schools close. Oh, that's, yeah. Is he live somewhere else? No, I'm just always very, very behind. Silver Bayonet got me into Napoleonic era history. Well, that's cool. Hot Lead was supposed to work with any minis, but balancing things like medieval levies versus sci-fi troops and the cost of making miniatures ended it. Yeah, see, that's the thing. There are rule sets out there from time to time that are like, oh, yeah, we're going to... I like to call them Aztecs versus astronauts games, where you've basically like, oh, we've set it up so you can do whatever you want. And yeah, well, okay. We've got astronauts over here and Aztecs over here. I don't know how well you're going to be able to balance that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Will you name your eventual terrain line the Snarling Badger Den? I don't think so. I don't know. Death Wizards is an excellent game. Well, thank you. Starting another solo campaign in the next month. Well, I appreciate that, Jez. Peachy Tips did some great Silver Bayonet battle reports and mashed it up with his fondness for Sharp and Sean Bean. Well, sure, yeah. Peachy's smart, you know. Despite being digitally sculpted, Knucklebones minis look really like old school green stuff sculpts. Big fan. I know. And the reason they look like that, and this is so interesting, he told us about it. He sculpts them in VR. So he puts on like a head thing and he's got the hand things and he sculpts the models in VR. So, because when I first saw them, I just assumed that they were made with like green stuff, you know, and then poured resin. And then I saw something. I saw like a thing. It was like, oh, because no, when I first saw the models, I saw them like in Instagram or whatever. And then I was like, oh, I should go check out his website. I went and checked out his website and it took me to my mini factory. I'm like, oh, these are all STLs. These aren't resin poured, you know, prints from a mold. These are STLs. So then I'm like, okay, he must sculpt this stuff and then like super high res scan it in 3D to make STLs. That's really neat. And then when I talked to him, we had a couple of calls when we were setting up stuff with the Death Wizards. He's like, oh no, I sculpted in VR. And I was like, I didn't even know you could do that. He's like, oh yeah. So he's wearing a headset and he's, you know, sculpting it in VR and all that stuff. And then afterwards he goes back in and ZBrush, I think he said, for like straight stuff, like guns, like hard surface stuff, guns, swords, things like that. He'll do those stuff separately, but the majority of the models themselves are all done in VR, which is crazy. I don't know what software he uses. Let's see here. Doing resins would open you up to liability, resin pockets and all? Potentially, yeah. The app I use to track my paints and minis and painting statues is Brush Rage. I think I've heard of that. One of the things I do love about Kings of War, the ability to use any miniatures. There's a lot of games that allow you to use any miniatures. I know that a lot of people think that GW is the only company out there in the world, but there's actually a lot of companies out there. Hope your area isn't buried under too much Wintergeddon. No, we had no snow at all. It was about a half an hour ago was the first time that we got above 0 Fahrenheit, which is like, I don't know, -19 or -20 or whatever Celsius. It's the first time we've been above 0 Fahrenheit in several days. I think it was Friday morning. It was -22 Fahrenheit. And with the wind chill, it was like -40, which, fun fact, -40 Celsius. Excuse me. I'm dry. -40 Celsius and -40 Fahrenheit are the same temperature. It's where they overlap. Dog thinks it's awesome. One dog thinks it's awesome. One dog noped out, ran back in the house. That's dogs, you know. I printed my first Necromunda minis with testers. I painted my first Necromundas with testers. It was an awful experience. Yeah, testers enamel is not great. Even testers acrylic, if you can find it, not great. Had to enjoy the rare snow day here in El Paso. Nice. Anyone else watch the skyscraper live climb last night? Absolutely mind-blowing. I think I heard about it, but I don't, yeah. I saw something on Netflix about it, I think. Let's see here. Not all features are unlocked on free version. Oh, for Fusion. The features that weren't unlocked were like, I'm like, yeah, I don't care. Like, it was the stuff that I was like, But I at the very least thought if I can just make the basic shapes quickly and then move them into Blender and do the stuff I need to do on them next, but I couldn't even figure out how to do that. And also I was like, I don't like your pricing thing. It's dumb. So learn to do everything in Blender. And if you want to donate to Blender, then use the money to make it better. Sure. Like I said, right now, my thought is I'm probably going to be using plasticity to make the base shapes and then doing the sculpting parts if I want to put in cracks and textures and things like that. Do that stuff in Blender. That's kind of where I'm thinking my head's at right now. Because I did one relatively short, like 2-hour, like computer-based class through Skillshare about Blender to get the hang of it a little bit. But I just feel like I can get stuff done faster in plasticity as far as just building shapes, like specifically from like primitives and things like that and everything. But I don't know, we'll see. I need to work on it some more this week. I'm trying to like set aside enough time each week to be able to do that. But like I said, lately the videos, like this week's video is going to take a decent amount of work too, which probably means it won't get any views, but that's fine. But yeah. Bleep Bloop, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. Feels like you've got tons and tons of terrain and minis these days, so you just store them on shelves or on display. I mainly keep them minis I keep in boxes from Battle Foam, yeah. So they make these like boxes that are almost like a banker's box. If you ever used a banker's box before, but they're designed to be the right size for their large foam trays. And then I can just put stuff I don't use too frequently in the foam trays and then put them in the cardboard boxes and then store them, and they kind of stack, and it's nice. As far as terrain, that does end up on shelves, which means it sometimes gets a little dusty, but you just take a one of those makeup brushes and then, whatever. I have an electric, it's not like canned air, but it's like a little rechargeable, it's kind of like a hair dryer, except it doesn't get hot. It's just designed for like blowing stuff off, like that. And I use that sometimes too. But I also have a decent amount of these floating around. It's mostly for photography. And it's basically, it's for blowing dust off of your lenses and your sensors and stuff like that on your cameras. Because if you go, you might spit on your lens or, God forbid, your sensor. So I've got a couple of these floating around too, which the electric thing works better for for terrain. Let's see here. Blu-rays sounds retro to me. Well, it's not. I mean, I got to be honest, I bought a Blu-ray within the last year. I bought, what the heck did I buy on Blu-ray? The American version of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Love that movie. Every time I watch it, I'm like, man, I want to live in Europe. Jeez Louise. Blue foam and hot wire are your friends. I do like cutting foam with a wire thing. It is fun, but for the most part lately, I've been, like I said, working with 3D printing. Well, folks, it's the end of the stream. It's a little after 11, so I've got to get going. I need to go downstairs and take the thing that I printed overnight off of the printer and start a new thing before we end up going over to the in-laws for lunch. I also have to open the door in here because it is getting cold in here. But I kept the door closed because Rex was a little bit on one this morning, and I was pretty sure he was going to try to jump up on the desk. So I was like, let's just nip that in the bud. Some days he's an almost chill cat, and then other days not so much. He's better than he was because he's getting older, thank God. But some days I wonder how old he's going to get. Anyway, so thanks everybody for coming by, and I was thinking initially about saying, hey, give me some ideas for some things that I should try to sculpt up, but I don't know if I'm quite there yet. So maybe I'll have another show sometime in the future where I'm like, I need ideas. I have some ideas, but maybe at some point I'll need ideas. I don't know, but we'll see how it works out. But yeah, new video coming up this Friday that's going to be about talking about retro. It's going to be talking about some older miniatures, which I'm not usually into, like old miniatures, but I am into these. If you were in the Patreon show yesterday, you know what I'm talking about. But otherwise, yeah, that's stay warm if you can. Don't get into too much snow. Don't hurt yourself shoveling. Yeah, try to stay safe. If you're in a situation where it's too wet, too windy, too snowy, too cold, stay inside and do a little bit of hobby. It'll be great. That's pretty much about it. Thanks to everybody for coming by and hanging out, and we'll see you again here in 2 weeks. I'll be on Twitch Monday night at the normal time, 7 p.m. Central. I'm going to continue painting on some weird little sci-fi guys, and yeah, that's pretty much about it. So if you get the chance, do some hobby, especially if you can stay warm while you're doing it. And if you don't get the chance, don't beat yourself up about it. I think that's pretty much about it. Thanks for watching.